Hello chess friends and welcome to Azarov's chess channel and welcome to my Basics in Chess series. So in this series we're following opening principles, middle game strategies and the end game strategies. Today we're continuing with our middle game strategies again. Today we're continuing with our series attacking the fianchetto with our attacking themes in the middle game. This is already our video number 4, so I've analyzed so far three types of attacking formations against the fianchetto. So in order to get a better understanding of this particular video, please watch my videos first that I've already created, because combined you should really watch them, because then you have a better understanding about these ideas, how to attack this fianchetto setup, like here this bishop to g7 and this g6 idea. So these videos are really important to watch combined, because then you get this grip, then you get these ideas, combined ideas. First we have analyzed this common battery, queen and bishop battery against the bishop, then we have analyzed the two knights attack. But sometimes these attacking themes will come to you combined. You get one tactical motif, then combined with another tactical motif, you get great attacking possibilities, and maybe you can win games very easily. So today we'll analyze this common rook to h5 tactic. It's sort of a rook sacrifice, giving up the rook for the knight in order to open some files, open some diagonals for our minor pieces. And in my previous video I've analyzed this common attack against this h5 square. The h5 square in this fianchetto, against this fianchetto, is very important. Today we'll analyze this situation when we play, for instance, here h5, then knight to h5 follows, then we can play rook to h5, and then creating our common bishop and queen battery by trading off the darks for bishop, maybe include this other rook into the game and creating dangerous checkmate threats on the h file. These are the ideas. Of course, not all games will end with some checkmates, but at least this pattern that you should recognize is very important in order to get at least some kind of an attacking chances in your middle game. So when is it possible, the question in this video, when is it possible to give up here this rook for a knight? For instance, if this knight jumps, as I said, we could sometimes sacrifice the rook for the knight. Well, there is really one important thing that you should memorize while creating a potential rook to h5 sacrifice. First of all these fianchetto setups that you create, for instance, like here, basically there are two choices of black, how he has broken the center so far. In this particular game, you see black has played the Sicilian. It's one of my games from white's perspective. Here your opponent has already pay good attention. This is really important. So your opponent has played the move c5. In some occasions, for instance in the perch defense, your opponent will play sometimes the move e5 in order to get some kind of a trade here on the square d4. This rook to h5 sacrifice basically works when your opponent has played the c5, because if your opponent has played the move e5, then this queen can get sometimes into the defense, maybe through the square f6. So you see, when your opponent has played the e-pawn move, then the queen can be a good defensive piece and support this bishop here on g7 and get maybe a protection of this dark squares after our potential bishop to h6 trades possibility. So this rook to h5 basically in most of the occasions works if your opponent has played here pawn breakthrough with the move c5, not with the move e5. When your opponent plays the move e5, be careful. You could maybe go again into rook to h5 sacrifice, but that can only happen if your opponent has played maybe some deflection moves with your queen, when the queen is far away from the defense of the king. So you see now in a couple of examples how great really this rook to h5 sacrifice can be. Here in this particular game, it was a Yugoslav attack of the dragon Sicilian defense. My opponent played the move b5, and here I played simply h5, trying to crack the position after knight takes h5. I didn't want to take immediately, because still there are good defensive pieces around black's king. I played first the move g4. In the game, knight to f6 was played, and now finally bishop to h6. After the move bishop takes h6, here queen takes h6. Now my idea is to play knight to d5, deflecting the knight, of course, from the defense of this h7 and create this very dangerous checkmate threat. In the game, my opponent, that's why, sacrificed this rook back. He played rook takes c3. After b takes c3, he played queen to c7 in order to attack here maybe the c3 weakness and get this knight on c4, creating checkmate threats on b2. And for instance, if I take out with the bishop, then the rook can come very actively into the game on the b file. So you see, my opponent has also played some counter-attack possibilities. So that's why in this opposite side attack games, like I've already explained in some of my videos, when we have the situation in which these kings are opposite side castled, then you should be really fast in your attack. So that's why I had to counterplay somehow. I played the move g5. In the game, knight to h5 was played, and now finally rook to h5. You see, we have now the situation that the queen cannot participate in the defense because the queen is here, cannot here defend maybe the g7, here also maybe the h7 square. So that's why here really a rook sacrifice is possible after g takes h5, rook to h1. Now you see I have a great activity. In the game, queen to c3 was played, but it's a little bit too late. After queen takes h5, it was already game over. There's nothing that black can do, cannot participate in the attack because you get checkmated in 2 moves. So this was game over, and in this position my opponent resigned. So you see how important it is for the queen to participate in the defense by maybe playing some e6 or e5 moves. So far this didn't happen, and my opponent got punished with this common rook to h5 sacrifice. You saw I gave up the exchange but opened this very important h file. So here I wanted to show you also another great game of mine. Basically, I'm gonna show you in this video only my games because I couldn't find any examples. It's really hard for me for the series to find some great examples. So when I play some games by myself, then I of course memorize them, and then I write me some notations, and then I say to myself, for instance, this game could be for an h5 attack, this could be for pawn breakthrough. So that's how I make these videos. I really memorize my games, and then can maybe show you some of my examples. So here we have also a very dynamic game in the so-called Barry attack. In the game, my opponent tried to move bishop to a6, a very important move for him because in the next move I tried to play the move h4, h5, and because I've created here this queen and bishop battery, this h5 would be a possibility. So my opponent got rid of one very important attacking piece, this bishop on e2, but I played h4 anyway. After bishop takes e2, queen takes e2, and again we have this situation, I hope you realize, in which black didn't play with the e pawn. So it would be very important maybe to include somehow the queen into the defense. So in the game he played a5, trying maybe some a4, a3 ideas in order to crack the position on the queen side, because he probably thought that I'm gonna castle queen side. That's why here h5, and here knight takes h5, and now rook takes h5. We have g takes h5, queen takes h5, knight to d7, challenging this very annoying knight. For instance, if you take here this knight on e5, then d takes e5 is very dangerous, and you get very annoying stuff here around the black's king. You have really the starts for problems after bishop h6, maybe queen to g5, you get checkmated here on g7. So that's why my opponent tried to challenge the knight, but I simply castled. After knight to f6, we have queen to h4, c5. He tried finally to crack the position somehow, but now rook to h1 with the preparation to somehow deflect this knight from the defense of this h7. You see how weak the pawn structure now in front of black's king is after I sacrificed the rook for the exchange. We have c takes d4, e takes d4, queen to d6. My opponent is desperately trying now to include the queen somehow into the attack, but now g4, simply trying really to deflect this knight. This knight is the key defender. In the game, rook to c8 was played. Now g5, we have knight to e4, and here I found an attacking move, a good one I think. Here I played g6, simply opening the position again after h takes g6. If f takes g6, then you get queen takes queen to h7, and then here knight to g6 is also very annoying. So in the game, after h takes g6, I play simply queen to h7 with a check, king to f8, and now bishop to h6. This is now basically game over, because in the game, after bishop takes h6, queen takes h6, and if you go here on g8, then you get checkmated on h8. So my opponent tried king to e8, but queen to h8, and again it's game over. So this knight is of course covering this very important d7 square. So you see, this rook to h5 idea is really a great one. You can create really some dangerous attacking possibilities here. It's a similar game, is also one of my games. I hope you don't mind. I think these are instructive chess games. Here I tried again this move h5. Again, we have the situation in which my opponent tried to crack the position on the c file. He played with the c pawn, not with the e pawn. So again, the queen cannot participate in the defense, maybe through the square f6. Again, knight takes h5. We have rook takes h5, g takes h5, queen takes h5 with an attack on this f7 square. Knight takes e5, but here I played simply bishop, queen takes h7 with the support of the bishop here on d3. So I've created this very nice battery. In the game, king to f8 was played, and now bishop to h6. In the game, knight to d3 was played with a check, but here I simply took c takes d3, and of course you cannot take, because you get checkmated here on h8. So in the game, my opponent tried to escape through the square e7. I simply took, queen takes g7, king to e7, and now bishop to g5. The queen is lost. You cannot play f6 and similar ideas. So you have to go somewhere with the king, and you lose the queen, and eventually the game. So you see, these are really some common ideas. I wanted to show you also how important it is to play with the e-pawn and include here this queen into defense. My opponent tried to play this h5, rook to h5 attack against me, so it was a game in a hyper accelerated rank Sicilian defense that I usually play. In the game, h5 was played. I played knight takes h5, rook takes h5, g takes h5, and in the game, knight to g5 was played with the preparation to take out the pawn on h5, and then here attacking this f7 weakness. So that's why I have to push this e-pawn. That's the very important thing if you play defensive. You saw in this couple of examples that my opponent didn't play with the e-pawn. Here now the queen can at least participate somehow into the defense. Let's flip the board again. In the game, queen takes h5 was played, and now you see queen to f6 is very important here. If your opponent tries this h5 attack to include the queen in the defense, here knight to c2 is played, queen to g6. If I trade off the queens, then the position is much more simplified. Then I have a better position, because I'm of course up the exchange and I can win the game very easily. So after queen to g6, my opponent is of course not interested to trade off the pieces. That's why bishop to e7, f4. Here I played the knight to c6, and here my opponent tried maybe to play the fork on c7, and probably thought that I would be scared to castle on the king side, but I castled simply. Now I think he had his fun with his attack, but I'm not seeing a clear way how he should win this game. There are also now some threats to play h6, because the knight is pinned. In the game, queen to h2, that's why I played, and I played simply d5, cracking the position in the center. My opponent tried d3, a6, kicking away the knight, knight to c3, and here knight to d4, king to d1 was played. And I'm not going to show you now the whole game. I hope you realize this is now a better position. Still, I haven't lost anything. I could even take out this knight now on g5. I can kick it away with h6, b6, bishop to b7. So many great possibilities. Even b5 here, a flank attack is possible, but that was only possible because I played this very important move e6 in order to include the queen into the defense. You see, sometimes you should be careful when your opponent can defend, try to calculate. I'm just showing you these common patterns that are possible. As I said, sacrificing pieces is not so easy in chess. Be careful, calculate everything. But from a thematic point of view, I hope you can realize these ideas. For instance, to take out here this h5, then opening the h file, somehow creating dangerous batteries and some great checkmate threats against your opponent. Okay, I hope you realize these ideas, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. We'll follow now again this fianchetto setups. There are really many themes how to play against the fianchetto. Meanwhile, you can watch my other commented chess games from the Basics in Chess series with some more opening principles, middle game strategies, and the endgame strategies. And you can also watch my chess tactics and chess puzzles videos, in which I show you all of the possible tactical motifs that can happen to you in a chess game. You can also subscribe to my channel if you like this content. Thanks you for watching, guys, and chess is the best, of course.